Hi, everyone. It's Emily, and I am joined on today's podcast by Ellen.
Hi, it's Ellen.
I actually was literally just saying that I need to watch the volume of my voice because I'm in a shared working space right now, and I'm
10
already
seconds
off
in.
to a really difficult start. So, everyone, I have with me Ellen Mchugh. Ellen is our full-time pediatric nurse practitioner at NAPS. And you've worked for us for, gosh, many years now. How many years have you worked for NAPS?
It's a good question.
I don't fucking know.
We just go off of Kate O'Day's age and go from there.
That's so true. Yes. So Kate is 7.
7, so 7.5. So let's say 7 years. Took a few months to get warmed up.
Wait, that's a big lie. Kate is 6.
She is 6.
Because Grace and Kate are the same age. Okay. Whatever. But this is it. We're going to go into like how we met you because it was when Kate was born. Anyway, I wanted to bring Ellen on the podcast today because you have worked for NAPS for many years now. I want to let people know what you do. We'll talk about that more. You do a ton of sleep consulting for us, but it's so much more than that now that we have our online membership. You are active with our members all the time. And I found that I had you guest speak for my mom survival group recently on sleep. And we reference you a lot on our social media. And I have people who will say, like, who is this Ellen? And like, how do I get to know her? Or it's always that people do end up working with you and they're like, oh my God, like I didn't even know that you had Ellen at NAPS and like she's so amazing and this and that. So I'm like, let's talk about Ellen today.
I love it.
I mean, bringing back, we're joking. Kate O'Day is Jamie's firstborn, the firstborn of the girl gang. And I was pregnant with Grace when Jamie had Kate. And do you remember meeting Jamie?
Yeah, it was a snowy February day.
Oh my God, that was the worst winter ever in Boston.
Well, and the reason I honestly do remember it is Jamie, so I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner and I was working that weekend. So you kind of remember your weekend shifts and it was very snowy, but we have to see these newborns. So Jamie came in and I'm looking at this newborn card that I get and it has mom's date of birth and then obviously the baby's name and date of birth. And Jamie and I have the same birthday, not the same year. Same birthday. And my firstborn is a Kate, also born in February. So instantly I was like, well, this is really, really weird. And then I saw Jamie and we have the same dark hair, and I was like, well, obviously I love her.
She probably like said the F word at the appointment and you were like, oh my God, I really love her.
It was love at first sight with F word.
So I vividly remember, because I was pregnant with Grace, Jamie calling me on that car ride home from the pediatrician office, having just seen you, and was like, Emily, I just met the most amazing woman. And then she went on this girl crush rant about like what an amazing pediatrician you were, and like, but also how funny you were and down to earth and how real you were. And she was like, we have to stalk her. And we're going to slowly make her our friend because we need her to come work for us someday. And like, she was like kind of joking, but also kind of serious. And she was like, you need to see her as your pediatrician. So then I put you down and you became my pediatrician. It started out as like a girl crush, but then we actually like, you saw our kids and then we became really close with you. And then you started working for NAPS.
And I remember the first conversation actually Jamie and I had, and she was like, so what could you do for us? And I was like, I was thinking the same thing. Your company is amazing. Yeah. And so I started with sleep.
Yep.
Sleep stuff.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that today. Well, I wanted to ask you a bit about like, how did you end up really like falling into this space of sleep? But before we do that, I feel like it'd be helpful for people to know, just tell us about your background as a mom and a pediatrician.
Okay. So I currently live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm from Virginia originally, but I had lived in the Boston area in Newton for 17 years. So I went to nursing school at Regis, and then I practiced at Center Pediatrics in Brookline for 14 years. Amazing. Right
Such a long
after
time.
nursing school, I got that job. Had just gotten married and I'm a mom. I have two girls. Kate is 11 and Caroline is 8. And 1 year ago, we relocated our family down to my home state of Virginia.
Mhm.
So I called Jamie and Emily before I left my job of 14 years and said, can you give me a full-time job? So
And we were like, duh.
please. I was pleased. They were also pleased. No. So I've been practicing now for 15 years as a pediatric nurse practitioner. And I love it. And obviously I love naps.
I mean, for people who are listening to this, if you know Jamie and I, then you know that we talk about all the time how important it is to love your pediatrician. And we have content inside of our membership and podcasts on like how to find a pediatrician and why you should love them. But it is like no coincidence that we like grew to love you so much and then had you come work for naps, because we really just always truly had the best experience with you with our girls. Now we have 6 of them total, but it is just the way that you talk to patients and talk to parents, and the way that you interact with babies and kids, and how you like, you just know how to like look in their ears and they're not going to like freak out. They trust you right away, and how to like make it fun and then actually answer questions, even because we're like healthcare providers. But how many times do I ask you questions all the time, but you never make me feel dumb about it?
No, your job is to be their mom. That's it. I'll answer the medical
But
stuff.
like you just have that balance. It's like incredible.
Oh my
So
gosh, I didn't know this session was just going to be an
I
amazing
called
fill
you on
my
the podcast
bucket.
today to profess my love for you. We've courted you for so long. And you have your 2 girls, obviously, which I think just having kids yourself. How
Yes,
confident
makes
are you
you.
in their ages that you just said?
I'm about 95%. Do you know what? The only reason I'm super confident is because today was their first day of school. So I feel like the stats are flying out. How is my oldest just went to her first day of middle school.
I know.
And so but I'm pretty confident on their ages, not Cato days.
Yeah, because I'm not feeling good about my brain right now
Well,
because
Eloise isn't one yet. So you are allowed to do that.
she's almost 1. Your role at NAP, specifically about sleep. So
Okay.
obviously, like when you started working for us, you were doing tons of sleep consulting. You still do.
Yep.
And now we do group sleep consulting. Sleep is a tough one, right? Because
So tough.
every baby is so different. Every parent is so different. And so I think of all the spaces that you could have ended up in as a pediatrician, it is interesting that sleep became like your thing. Like, how did this
Yeah.
happen? Because it's a tough nut to crack, and it's just
I
really
think
tough.
it is. I think it's because it's a basic human need, right? And it's something that feels so out of control and like it's lost forever and there's no hope when you have a baby or even when you're pregnant, because you're not getting a lot of sleep, but we need it to be the best version of ourselves. So, and at every well visit, every parent, 99% of every parent with a child under the age of 2, their first question is sleep. Naps, overnight sleep, too much, too little, help, help, help. How can I make it? And so it just became something that you realize how important it is. And then as a mom, you also realize how important it is, but how hard it is to figure out what plan is going to work best for your family, how to feel okay choosing a plan about if you're doing sleep training. But it affects you, your child, and then your family's like unit about
Yeah.
how sleep is. So I just feel like I became really good at talking about it and listening to the families that I just fell in love with it. And I knew what a difference it made for my family when we did sleep training for our kids.
Right. Well, I was going to ask, were your girls tough sleepers? I honestly don't remember.
Kate was a dream.
Mhm.
We lived in a 1 bedroom and she slept like an angel. And she still is. And Caroline was not a dream. And so they were complete opposites. And that was really hard going from having a really good sleeper
Yeah.
to then not, especially when you have a toddler. So I'm not sure though I think it's because I got to experience a little bit of everything. And even my girlfriends, with their kids and conversations, everything goes to sleep. People talk about sleep all the time, even as adults, right? So tired.
Literally, I hope Jamie listens to this episode because she would probably say there are two major things that I talk about most on a daily basis. That would be traffic and sleep.
Well, and I just realized when I wake up in the morning, like I say to my husband and my kids, how did you sleep last night? Like it's one of the first freaking things out of your mouth, right? To
I
start your
always say
day.
to Grace and Maddie when they come down, how was your sleepy? How was your sleepy
Yeah.
last night?
So it's,
Good
and
mama.
it's forever. So I just became so, and then when I started doing it for naps, it just became so, it is such a rewarding role to have as a sleep consultant because you know how much you're going to change a family's life, honestly. Like it's life changing.
You don't have to tell me this. I mean, I think
Let's not use Grace as an example.
one of the recent episodes that Jamie and I did was about Grace and just about 7 years because she's
I knew it, but I heard it.
That it took her she's 7 and it took her that long to like become a good sleeper. And oh my gosh, Ellen, like I think it's very validating for people to hear this because I obviously do this for a living and I help families all the time with sleep from what I've learned from you and from what I've learned from clinical experience. But even being in this space as like doing this for a living, I've talked about it so much, like how much I struggled. I mean, for the love of God, how many times do you think you had to do sleep training with me and my husband for Grace?
I can't. I mean, AJ, we all got together. There were many conversations. There was. So Grace is her own special little unicorn in sleep. But I think one thing too that I think is so important, and I actually had one of the NAPS nurses say this to me, is I tell families too, you're giving your child the gift of sleep, which is a gift that usually it has to be given to you. Like my firstborn was a great sleeper. Did we create a great sleep environment? Dark, sound machine, you know, all the favorites. But also, I had one of the nurses say to me, Ellen, I'm still such a terrible sleeper. And I think all the time about how you say you need to give them the gift of sleep. And she's like, my parents didn't give me that gift. And I'm still a terrible sleeper. And it's things like that that just, it's a forever gift.
So I like the way when you explain that with parents about sleep in general, because I did have a patient recently who did sleep consulting with you. And what was holding her back from getting her baby like on a sleep schedule was really just herself at that point because she was so anxious about it. And it was the way that you spoke to her and her partner about like how it's not just a learned skill, like it's a gift for them. And it just really shifts your perspective as a parent because it's really easy to get hung up on like guilt or worrying if you're doing things right. And it's like, oh, I'm giving my child like this skill, this gift that they really need.
Yes.
I mean, that resonated for me. I mean, Grace, obviously, I still had to talk to you about Maddie a couple times. And even with Eloise. Eloise is a dream baby, but I still
had to work on her.
We had that 13-week phone call.
We sure did. I remember exactly where I was.
Here's a question for you. I think in general, when we talk about sleep, like most of our families feel afraid by this topic, or they're like, they have this stigma or worry around sleep because
or they feel pressure.
Yes, exactly. And I think that when you think about sleep or teaching babies to sleep, everybody does tend to think that it's this like one way or the highway type method. And what I appreciate about what you do, and I think it's because you have this pediatrician experience as well as you really look at the whole picture, like how is this baby eating? Like what is their diet like during the day? How often are they feeding? Are they on breast milk or formula? How much? Like what's their caloric intake? How are they doing on solids? What's going on at bedtime and overnight naps? Like you actually just create this really big like clinical picture to then decide how parents should move forward with sleep. But I think it's important to touch on like that there are different ways of doing this.
Sure.
Because people are so afraid by it and like reading that there's only just like one way of like doing sleep training, but there's so many.
There are so many. And honestly, so I do group calls. I have one starting next week and I do private calls. The group calls are great for people who are in this sweet spot of like, we're ready to do it. Someone just tell me a plan. I'm going to follow it. I've got this community of other families on this group call with me. We're going to support each other and text each other and email each other over the next 2 weeks between our first call and our second call. and we're just going to do this together and lean on each other. And then the private calls are very much for people who are like, Ellen, listen, I have a lot of anxiety. My baby's had feeding issues. My husband travels, like my partner's, whatever it is, got insomnia. There are a million issues, so that we can break it down and say, what's going to work best for your family? Let's find a plan that's going to suit you individually as a family. Which I love doing that too, because it is, for me, being a sleep consultant, it's very clinical. When I'm asking the questions, it's like I'm doing a full assessment when someone presents to me with, a physical ailment. It's the same thing. Like, talk to me about this, so I can put it together and deliver a plan that really will fit your baby's feeding, your family needs, the baby's needs, all together. But there is no one way. Every plan is very different, very individualized. And that's what makes it so unique and special.
Yeah, I do. It's such an added value to work with you just because of that you're doing an assessment. Like, you can't even help yourself. You're thinking
No,
of
I can't.
every possible thing that could be contributing to this child and this family, and like what kind of routine they need to get in and what they really should be doing.
Well, and a lot of families worry, if the baby had really bad reflux or laryngomalacia or, any kind of common newborn ailment, that I do have the 15 years of clinical, expertise to kind of say, like, here's where that should be along, and it's, and know what the symptoms of that are, and what's a safe way and responsible way to kind of sleep train that baby that's different from, a baby without any of those issues.
I referenced that I had AJ, my husband, on sleep calls with you. So I think it's probably important to tell people, when you do sleep consulting, you encourage, or you try to always get the partner, husband, family, whoever lives there, to be on the call. Why do you do that?
So that everyone can be on the same page. Now, it's funny, it depends on the family, right? AJ, he needed to be on the calls. It's straight from the horse's mouth. He needed to hear it. I have families
He's the type of personality, just so everybody knows, that like, you just tell him what you need to do, why we're doing it, and then like how to execute it, and he'll be like, okay.
And then he'd have to ask his questions,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would all get together on the same page. So that's with families and there are some families, honestly, where one partner says, I can't do it, I'm leaving the house. And so the other, and that's just it. And police and then there are single families where they'll might have a family member come in and do it. But also, when I work with certain types of personalities, I can sense it from the start, and I'll say, maybe you two need to sign a contract. Like, I'm going to send you my notes. Why don't you two put a line under and sign it that you're both going to commit to the plan? Because this is a real contract and a real investment for your family. And you've got to take it seriously.
I mean, I think a one little nugget that we can give everybody listening on sleep is that it honestly is less about the plan that you choose for your child. It is more about that you decide on the plan and remain consistent with the plan.
Isn't that parenting? I also say that to parents all the time. Be the best way to parent. Okay, not the best way to parent, but an important quality in being a good parent is being consistent, right? Setting healthy boundaries, which is really hard. It's hard to do that sometimes. It's hard to say no. It's hard to set these boundaries. But if we set them and we know they're the best for our child and we're consistent, they will learn.
It's so easy to not be consistent with sleep because there's so many variables, right? Like, I'm thinking of my MSG group that I run, and like, you'll sometimes guest speak at that when we talk about sleep, but it's really, with a newborn in particular, in the first 12 weeks, it's really easy to all of a sudden you have like this one magical night, right? They do like one long stretch of 5 or 6 hours.
It really mess with you.
And so that next morning you're like, oh my God, okay. Like, what did I eat yesterday? What did I drink?
Yep.
What was our schedule? Yep. Where did I go? What did I
They fed for 14 minutes. They fed for 16 minutes.
Yep. And then you're like trying to duplicate that, or totally opposite, right? Like, you have a really, really bad night. So you're like, I'm going to change everything today. I'm going to change the sleep suit. I'm going to move them.
And I'm going to put it in my app, and I'm going to collect the data, and I'm going to troubleshoot the data.
Put them in a new room. I'm going to put dark. I'm going to put like, maybe I'll move the bassinet over to the other side. Like, you just, and then all of a sudden you don't even know what's working anymore.
No. So that And that happens all the time. And that's the hard part, is the inconsistencies that those newborns give you, the major inconsistencies. And that's why you need your MSGs, which I'm also running an MSG starting next week.
You know what? So let's
talk
tell
about all
people,
the
like,
things else.
what, tell everybody, what do you do? Like, cause now you do so much for naps. Like, how can people find you?
Okay. So I do the group sleep calls, the private sleep calls. I do nursing consults. So if you want to talk about breastfeeding, you want to talk about discipline, you want to talk about your child biting you, you want to talk about potty training, you want to talk about starting solids. I run a potty training webinar. I run a starting solids webinar. I also work with our overnight clients because we offer overnight nursing services, and the overnight clients, a bonus for them is they get to book calls with me and talk to me as often as they'd like about any questions with their newborns. So I do love talking about solid foods too, potty training, all this fun stuff that I do for naps. I love it.
You can just talk about, like, what's so cool too is you can talk to parents about like their baby, but also their older child, because
Yes.
you just do all ages, which is so
It's
cool.
usually, yes. And the potty training in the nursing consults sometimes too involve, let's talk about both siblings. We're potty training this one and this one won't stop biting me, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's fun and exciting because it's so rewarding. And I know it helps the family so much too, just to have a sounding board.
Yeah. We've got you busy tonight too.
Q&A, baby.
I do really feel that, like, that's why I brought you on, right? Our members are so close with you because we have an Ask the Nurse board where you can write a question.
I forgot about that.
Any question, you guys, any time of day. And either myself, Jamie, or Ellen will answer it within 24 hours. And talking like any question, you'll get breastfeeding, pumping, bottles, sleep, going back to work. Maybe you don't feel good and you're not sure, like, if you can take a cold medicine, or pictures of like baby poop.
Do I take on a new job? I'm pregnant with my second. What should I do? Should I do this career change? Anything you want to ask us, we'll answer it.
Right. So our members know you really well because you're on our message board all the time. And then we run the live Q&A. So members can actually like jump in and talk to either you, me, or Jamie live in real time, once to sometimes twice a week. So I think that's like just a super nice thing if you're listening and you actually just, maybe you need sleep help, but you don't even you're not sure even what you need. A good place to start is even just asking a basic question on that board.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my gosh. So, we keep you really busy.
I love it because it's all different. It's all fun. There's webinars. There's so much. And tonight, the Q&A, actually, I have to say, one of my favorites, besides the sleep stuff, which we all know I'm passionate about, I love MSGs and I love the Q&As because they're just really, you get people kind of at these raw moments and they just need someone to like, just give them that support and that little bit of information or that reassurance or whatever it might be, just can help a new mom, a new parent so much kind of where they are. So I love those.
I was thinking we should give the people some sleep advice while you're on here.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, I guess it's solicited advice because they're choosing to listen to this podcast. So, are your kids back in school?
Today was the first day.
Sure
after going to bed at 10:30 every night.
My kids are starting school at the end of this week and the beginning of next week. But I'm bringing this up because I do think in the last couple of weeks, the biggest questions that we're getting are around like school is starting. We have families that are starting a new daycare.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people are going back to the office because COVID is still there, but it's like a little bit better. And for whatever reason, offices were like, okay, we'll like throw them all back in September, right?
Yeah, so, sounds like a really good time.
Right. So if you listen to our podcasts on a weekly basis, Jamie and I did a podcast on like your childcare options all the way to transitions and like going back to school and daycare. But because we have you here today, I think it'd be cool to talk a little bit about what we can be expecting in the next month in terms of sleep. related to any of that stuff. Your best advice or tips, no pressure.
No pressure. Ellen's pearls, go. Okay. Well, we already talked about consistency. So getting on a consistent routine and schedule.
I mean, I'm already on like summer. I've got the summer bedtime going. Like the kids are going to bed later because it's summer and it's like very light out. And I'm like, we're so in trouble.
The reality is I feel, okay, this goes for like let me start with the older kids and I'm going to back down to the younger kids. Okay. Actually, a mom said to me yesterday when our pool was having like end of the year party and we were all like, we got to go. It's like a school night, like summer's over. And someone said, oh, I should have woken them up early today. And I was like, no way. Like, let them sleep in, like, let them enjoy. But this is so me. My philosophy is then just get them to bed early. They'll be tired today. Right. So they should hopefully get back on track. So like in Emily, I think that's probably a you way to do it too. Right. Totally. Is we're not going to spend a week waking them up early and trying to get them scheduled. So that's a personality thing. Yes. Some people might say 2 weeks before school, I want to start to wake them up. I'm going to try to get on a routine, ease it back, whatever it might be. That's fine. These instances, I say, do what works best for your family. For the younger kids, especially the ones like starting daycare or going to a nanny share or being with a nanny, I always tell parents, daycare sleep, nanny share sleep is different than home sleep. You have to let it go. You just have to. And I can promise you as a sleep expert, it is not going to disrupt what happens at home if you're consistent. So maybe daycare days, they go to bed earlier and they only nap 20 minutes total at daycare. And on the weekends, they're like little teenagers and they take a first, 2.5 hour nap and then a second nap that's 2 hours and they make up for that sleep. So you have to let the out of home sleep go. You have to find a way to let it go. It's so important because it's just not going to be the same. So I think being consistent at home, letting it go, give yourself lots of grace. And kids are super resilient and they will get back on track quickly.
True. So I know what you mean when you say be consistent because I help people be consistent. I'm not consistent, but I help others be consistent.
Yeah.
I know it's probably like basic level, but like, what do you mean by be consistent? Like, what are the things that people should be doing each day to be consistent? Because they're like, what does that mean?
Okay. So if you have a bedtime routine, try to stick with it so that your child knows the expectations and I always say this, don't negotiate with a toddler. Like, don't stray from the plan too much. If it's bedtime and we go upstairs and we brush our teeth, but they didn't eat a good dinner and Grace wants some goldfish and a banana, well, she's not going to get it because it's time to go
that's
upstairs.
Literally what they like at night, goldfish or a banana.
Every time I've been doing this. I would have added applesauce, no joke. That would have been my third choice.
Well, those are great. You just suck that down. Just like
suck it down fast, fine. Down. And then you end up going, okay, fine, just take it. Fine. But their little brain is like, oh yeah, I get it. The more I poke you, you're gonna give it to me. Now listen, I give really good advice too that I don't always take. Sometimes it's easier to just be like, take the banana, okay?
Totally.
But if you can, don't negotiate with the terrorists. It's bedtime. We're going to bed. We're brushing our teeth. We're not engaging in this negative talk that you don't want to do it. I'm drowning it out. Especially your little 3-year-olds, 2 and 3-year-olds, they don't care what you say, toddlers. If you're talking to them, you're talking to them. So even if it's like, no, I said no, mommy said no, we got a big day at work tomorrow, you got a big day at school, you need to be on your best. Don't you want to play on the playground tomorrow? Don't you want to have all that energy and strong energy? They're just like, oh yeah, cool, you just talked to me for 10 more minutes when you said it was bedtime.
It's so easy to your schedule. Like you're just like,
you over talk
to bed.
And then you finally say go to sleep and then you feel bad. Then you spiral and then so don't do that. Don't over talk. Stick to your plan, know it in your head, have it on a picture board if you need it, and be consistent with the plan.
I was thinking, I remember you telling me to be a robot so I wouldn't like engage with my kids, which is essentially if you do end up veering off your plan a little bit, like maybe you do give the banana or you go and you do the extra check or something, or you go into the room for some reason, you have to be a robot where you actually just like walk in and you don't really like talk to them or look at them, but you just do what it is that you need to do and then you go right back out again.
I also robot, or sometimes I'm like a sleep ninja.
You like
roll in, throw them in. roll
Like,
back out.
this is it. My kids would like throw their rubber nubs all over the floor. And then I would like, you'd be like, you can give it back one time, but you're going in like a robot. You're going really quietly, just put them all back and then you leave again.
Be consistent, Emily. Be consistent.
We're trying to tell other people how to be consistent right now.
I know this isn't for us.
Waking up around the same time, naps around the same time, that kind of stuff.
Yes, the schedule as much as you can. And also one more tidbit to take away your stress for daycare. If your daycare schedule naps are a little different than what is working at home, don't worry about it. Stick to what works at home because it's different. I just talked to a client the other day who daycare is switching their 11-month-old to 1 nap. He naps beautifully for 2 naps at home. She said, should I start prepping him for the next 2 weeks to 1 nap? I said, absolutely not. Stick with the 2 naps, send him to daycare on day 1, put him to bed earlier the first night, and on the weekends, do the 2 naps, and he will adjust beautifully.
Yep. I mean, that's all the time. Like, I'm starting a new school or a new daycare. Should I put the shades up during the day? Should I take them out of their sleep set? Should I drop to 1 nap to match? And it's like, you want your good sleep at home. The good sleep to keep going at home. So
yes. Yeah, that is a common one. Should I start to take them, turn off the sound machine for naps at home because they're going to daycare and they can't have it? The answer is a hard no. Do keep being consistent with what works at home.
Do you have a favorite age what's your favorite age? Maybe you don't, or a sweet spot. Maybe not like sweet spot for sleep training.
Oh, I definitely do.
Or do you just love all the ages?
I thought you meant like personally as a child.
I mean, I think everybody knows my favorite age is Eloise's right now, like that 6 to 12 month zone. 10
for
months
sure, 100%. That's like my favorite.
No, I meant for like when it comes to sleep training.
Yes.
Is there like a certain age where you're like, like I love doing the call at this age because it's just like.
I get excited when I look at a call. So you fill out an intake sheet when you book a call, and I know the dirty details. I know the baby's date of birth. And when I see that it is around 20 weeks, I get so excited for the family because those babies are sleep trained in about 2 to 3 nights. It's just this magical, sweet spot of them. They're getting it. They're ready for it. They've got control of their body. They can suck on their hands. Maybe they're starting to roll. They're just so ready for it. And they just want to receive that gift of sleep. Any age though, I've worked with families, who have a 3-year-old who's never slept through the night. And we figure that out. That's really hard. I don't lie to them though. I say, listen, it might take, a month to sort this out. So let's set some realistic expectations. But around 20 weeks, if in a perfect world, and I actually have a lot of clients that I work with who are like, Ellen, we're having our second. When do we call you for a sleep consult? When do we sleep train? I'm going to put it in my phone right now to remind myself to book this call with you at 20 weeks.
Right. Well, also to be clear, we're talking, when you think about like sleep training, I think about getting a baby to sleep through the night. That's where a lot of people's mind goes. It's like, okay, when do they do that? And 20 weeks is a great age. But there are many other reasons to talk about sleep leading up to 20 weeks.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Sleep call or consult could be about getting in more calories during the day to get longer stretches at night, like getting into the routines setting.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, your schedule
any age
in advance to make sleep better. So you really can talk about sleep at any age. Clearly, you said that when we opened that at your pediatrician visits at 90%.
Everyone wants
to talk about sleep.
The newborn visit, the 2-week visit, the 1-month visit. And there are many things you can do before you officially sleep train. There's so many things. We talk about this at naps all the time. You can do to get your baby to sleep longer.
Right.
Or that I had a conversation with a family this morning with a 12-week-old, and a lot of it was also a lot of pressure from the family. So we talked through that and strategies and what's going to work for this family. Now, there are plenty of babies that we do work on sleep training earlier than that. For the baby needs it, the family needs it. And there are families that we don't do it until much later, whenever they're kind of ready. So I could talk about sleep forever at every single age and give you some pearls.
Well, I mean, hopefully, if anybody out there is listening to this and you are you don't even have to be struggling with sleep. Like maybe you just have basic questions about it that you aren't able to get addressed at your routine well visits, or you are on a a Google blog deep dive of all the, I mean, gosh, if you Google sleep training or sleep books, there's just thousands and thousands of things. It's very overwhelming. So I feel like at a minimum, if you're listening to this and you just want to talk about sleep or you want to ask your questions to like a sound, reliable source, you can find Ellen.
With zero judgment.
Maybe you are very tired.
Yeah.
You did not sleep last night, or your baby did not sleep last night, or your toddler did not sleep last night, and you are ready for some guided support and relief. I want everyone to know all about Ellen because you have changed my life and Jamie's life for so many good reasons, just from being our pediatrician and taking care of our kids and working for NAPS, but then obviously on a personal level, helping me with my own 3 girls specifically in the sleep department. And so, you know, you just get all these messages about people who love Ellen. I just want everyone to know who the heck you are and just God, why we love you so much.
Well, the feeling's very, very mutual. But I'd love to talk to anyone that wants to
live on a
book
national
call.
podcast and you work for NAPS. Did you have to say that?
No, I didn't sign.
Oh my
Honestly,
gosh.
the feeling is mutual. I think anyone that knows the NAPS community is like, how can I work for them? How do I get a job? Like, I'm one of the lucky few that got a job.
Ellen.
So,
well, thanks for coming on and taking the time. And I'm sure I'll talk
thanks
to
for
you
having
again
me.
in like 5
I'll talk
minutes
to you in an
after we
hour.
get off this
Yeah.
podcast. And for anyone else listening, if you want to be a Nurture by NAPS member and literally hit Ellen up all the time, you can visit the show notes and get the link to join. All right, Ellen.
Bye.
Bye. I'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye,
Okay.
guys.